Hello, everyone. I'm Marco DiGeorge, and welcome to Acting Sessions. I'm the instructor and co founder of Truthful Acting Studios. We're an acting conservatory located in Orlando, Florida. And I like to come on, periodically and discuss different acting topics. And so today is an interesting one for me, and it's a topic I actually like spelling out, but it's one that seems to be an area of misunderstanding in the acting community. And that is the importance of theater in film acting. And I want to talk about this today because in nowadays in the acting community, especially when we first start getting involved with acting, or even when we're watching it from a distance, we feel that there is a vast difference between theater acting and film acting in the sense of, oh, I want to get involved in acting. This is what I hear, most of the time from new actors, new students, is that I want to get involved in acting, but I really only want to do film. And that's the majority. The actors that tend to want to get involved in theater sometimes want to do both. But actors that are watching and say, I want to get involved in acting, but I just want to do film, that's where the misunderstanding comes in. And because we think in the beginning that there's a difference between film and theater. And so I want to first start discussing what is the difference between the two so then we can understand why there's a connection and then ultimately an importance that if you want to be a film actor, why you have to study certain things in theater. Now, the disconnection nowadays, or in today's age, is really because just our access into it. Meaning you're watching television or a streaming a show, or you're watching a film, and it's like, man, I really want to do that. I want to be part of that process. And so you think that there's a direct line to that. And at the same time, maybe you've had some experience in middle school, high school, in the universities with theater, and it was like, wow, that wasn't really my thing. I really just want to go and be in film. And so, okay, so we have that initial misconception. And then I know in America, especially, we have classes that you could find that offer film acting only, meaning that you can study what it takes to just be in film. And there's the misconception. So let's back up a little bit. First of all, film acting has been around for 100 years or so, right? About 100 years is since the birth of film and since this new kind of medium that we are now currently represented on. Theater acting has been around for thousands of years. So the art form has been created and evolved in theater. And then it has been adapted to film. This is very important. Even though film is a different technique, what lies underneath it is the same. So, okay, so what are the main differences between theater and film? Let's start there. Well, theater, you are live on a stage, right? Everything that you're doing is happening live. There is an audience in front of you, right? There are lights pointing at you, and you are performing live in front of this audience. So there's a start point to the play and then an end point, right? And we move through it. Whatever's happening, the audience is reacting to you live. Now, that's a big part of theater. There's no stopping and redoing it. We don't back up and say, okay, audience, let me redo that moment again. Whatever happens, we have to keep moving forward. And we're doing it for that audience and that audience only during this performance. Where in film is collected ahead of time. All of these different pieces are collected ahead of time and then assembled together, which is called the edit. We assemble it together that then is put in front of an audience. So film is different in the technical aspect, meaning that we collect the pieces and edit them together. Now, the main difference here is that in theater, if we learn, let's say we're doing a 2-hour show, and you're like a lead or a supporting actor in that 2-hour show, you have to learn that entire show. And you have to go from start to finish. You have to know all your lines. You have to know all of your characterization, all of what we call personalization is why, the meaning of what you're saying and why does it mean something to you. You have to have all of that done ahead of time because when you present it to the audience, it's the final product. In film, we actually go over maybe several weeks, right? Or maybe a month, 2 months sometimes. We go day by day and we only shoot, meaning record, a piece at a time. So when an audience watches a film, it feels like it's all one thing happening at once. But in reality, it's a sliver by sliver. We record 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe a minute at a time, and that's it. And even this one moment that we're recording, we do what's called takes. So each take, meaning it's the same shot, we're just going to do it again. Take 2. It's the same shot, we're going to do it again. Take 3, take 4, take 5. We might do 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 takes for every single 30-second piece. So as an actor, you have multiple times to go through it. As a director, you can adjust and get multiple versions of that. But it's in these little slivers. So that's the main difference, right? In film, as an actor, we're doing these little tiny short little things. There's no momentum to it. In theater, we start the play and there's a momentum that we actually live in the moments. We live through the lives of these people for an hour or 2 hours at a time. And so there's the main difference. So it's like, okay, well, if it's that different, then why wouldn't there be a direct-to-film training or direct-to-theater training? Why do we need theater for film? And this is because when you're working only in film, it's very technical. So if I'm only shooting 30 seconds at a time, I have maybe 3 or 4 lines of dialogue at most during these 30 seconds. And so they put the camera on you, they tell you where to sit, they tell you how to, because you're in focus, right? So we can't really move that much. So they tell you exactly what they want you to do, and it's this 30 seconds. And they say, okay, and action. And we conduct this 30 seconds of life. Then they say, cut, okay, we're going to reset, we're going to do it again. And we go back, and we do it again, and action. And we conduct those 30 seconds. And that's really all there is. So there's no real momentum as the actor to feel that moment. It happens so quickly. So really in film, the performance is created in the edit because the editor now takes all of these little slivers. It's like a puzzle. And we take all of these little slivers and they put it together to then make it appear like it's one thing, like it all happened at the same time. And that's the illusion of it. That's the illusion of wow, when you're watching a scene and it's like, man, that performance was so great. But if you think about it, and I'm not taking anything away from the acting of it because there are great actors in film, but there's an advantage to the actor. And the advantage is that in a 2-minute scene, we might have typically 6 to 8 different camera angles, which we call shots, camera angles, right? There's a wider shot, there's a closer up shot, there's a shot that's over my shoulder looking at what I'm looking at. There's like different shots. So in a standard, very simple 2-minute scene, we have 6 to 8 camera setups. Within those 6 to 8 camera setups, it's an average of 6 to 8 takes. So we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 60 actual takes of a 2-minute scene. Think about that for a minute. 40 to 60 where we run the camera, where they say action to cut. For 2 minutes, we have 40 to 60 versions of it in different angles. The editor takes all of those pieces and then compiles the best of the best moments of performance as they put that together. So what you watch in a 2-minute scene is almost a best of reel, right? You're watching the best of the best moments that are extracted as they go through the footage. And so that actual moment, that actual scene never happened. Meaning the flow of those 2 minutes never happened. It's compiled later to make it look to the audience like it did. So we have an advantage of an actor that if we have a really good editor, they're going to make us look better than what we actually did. And so that's an advantage to us as an actor because we don't have to be great in every single take and every single moment. Now, it's not to say that we don't want to be or are not striving to be, but we have that advantage. In theater, everything lives or dies with the actor. The performance is based on what the actors are doing on stage because there's no editing. There's no second take. As an actor, you are on stage, the audience is live watching you, and you're either going to deliver a great performance or you're not. And then the next night you have to do it again, and the next night you have to do it again. There's a crazy pressure to that. But to me, as an actor, it's not a pressure that I look at in a bad way. It's an adrenaline. It's a rush. It's like, yes, I get to go out there tonight and once again put everything I have into this. It's almost like an extreme sport type of thing, right? It's this rush of adrenaline to do something again and again and again. So in theater, we never have the ability to pull back. We never have the ability to take a moment off. Because if we do, the audience sitting in front of us loses that moment. And they'll never get it back. If you're on Broadway or off Broadway or in professional theater, audience members are paying quite a bit of money to come see your show. And this is the one and only opportunity they have to see it. That's it, right? You know, you're spending $70, $80, $100 more for Broadway to see a show. It's a lot of money, and you don't have the ability, most people, to go back time and time again to see different versions of it. So you have this one version. As an actor, if we don't put everything we have into that show, then the audience loses. So that pressure is paramount. And so it teaches us, right? That teaches us as actors, when we work in theater, that we can never take a moment off. That is one of the main threads we have to pull into film. If we bring that lesson into film, that we don't ever stop, the show must go on. There is no take two. If we bring those lessons into film, it actually elevates what we're doing. I see with beginning actors that begin working in film, one of the main issues is because they know that there are multiple takes, because they know that if this doesn't go well, it's okay, we can just shoot another one, they don't have enough at risk. Meaning they're not putting everything they have into every single moment. And the issue in film is that there are so many variables, meaning that there's technical variables. There's camera, there's audio, there's movement of camera, there's movement of actors, there's focus, there's all of these different things, and performance. There's all these different variables that go into creating one moment in a film. And if everything technically works out, but we drop a performance, a moment in performance, that's not a good thing. Because to have everything happen really well is difficult to occur. So our job as the actor is to put everything we have into every single take, every single moment. But the actors that go directly into film don't understand that. They don't have the experience of being on stage and never dropping a moment, never pulling back, no matter what, giving everything you have to every moment, no matter what. So the actors that come from theater and work in film understand this. And so they are working in front of the camera, and man, they give everything they have. And so that's valued. That's a valued thing for a director in film, to want actors to know to never stop, to never pull back. The other main issue is that film actors tend to think too much. Now, when I say film actors, direct to film actors, meaning ones that did not study theater. In theater, one of the biggest things we learn is to get out of our head. We have to work so hard, we rehearse so much so that we don't have to think about what to say next. We don't have to think about where to move. It becomes more instinctive. And that's something that we learn in theater just because we have to, right? I mean, the pressure's on us to cook it to that level. In film, once again, we have actors that show up to set and are not memorized. They kind of know their lines, but not really, because again, they have the comfort of doing a second take, a third take, a fourth take. And so the performance doesn't push as far as it can go. They're not necessarily listening to every moment. They're not grounded in that moment. And because they're thinking about what they need to say and what they need to do, if anything happens that is different than what they think needs to happen, they stop. Actors will stop and say, okay, I'm sorry, can we do that again? Can we do that? Can we reset and do that again? And the issue there is an actor must never stop, ever, unless the director says cut. Right? We never stop. The show must go on. Unless there's a medical reason to do so, we never stop. We never stop because of performance. We never stop because of a line flub. We never stop for any reason acting-wise, ever. We always live in the moment. On stage, we learn that lesson. If we're in the middle of a play and we forget a line or we drop a line or our partner says something different or we get lost, I mean, who knows, right? All these things happen live on stage. If that happens, we still keep moving forward. The show must go on, meaning move forward. And so that's another valued lesson that directors and producers look for in film, in professional film especially. They want actors that will not stop a take. And the reason why that's so important is what happens as a director, right? We're watching something that's in a frame. Like right now I'm in a frame. That's all you see. And you're not seeing what's outside of the frame, right? Which is usually the crew and the cameras and everything else, right? You're not seeing all of that. But as the actor living in that space, we do see all of this other stuff. We're not only living in the frame, we live the whole thing. So typically as an actor, when we're on film, we think things matter that don't. The director's watching the screen. The only thing that matters is what's being captured right here. So something may happen beside us, off of frame. Something may drop, fall, who knows what. But something happens maybe that distracts us, and we think, oh, we need to stop. But what the director was getting, they were like, no, I was really liking what you were doing in that take. But now that we, the actor, stopped, we never get that moment back. So this is a valued principle, and it cannot be learned in film simply because there's no momentum in film. We're only going for 30 seconds at a time. We don't learn the pressure of having to stay in a prolonged moment. We don't learn the pressure of adjusting to anything that happens, meaning the wrong lines being said or forgetting where we're at or, whatever. A weird reaction from the audience. We never stop. Theater is where you learn that lesson. Now, how do I know these are valuable? Well, look no further than who is being cast in the big films. Let's look to Hollywood and say, okay, Hollywood, who are you casting? Who are you spending all of your money and contracts and everything else to obtain? Well, they're obtaining the best of the best theater actors from Europe, from Australia, from all over the world. They're getting the best of the best theater actors. These are theater-trained actors, meaning actors that have spent so much time on stage. Now, we don't realize that the actors that we watch, right? We watch a Marvel movie and, oh my God, it was amazing. Or, we watch a drama and it's like, oh my God, the performance was great. And we don't realize these actors also work on stage. We watch Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington and Viola Davis, right? And we're watching these great actors, and we don't realize that yes, they do a film, but then they also go and they do stage shows. The reason we don't know that the great actors do theater all the time is because unless you live in the city like New York or London or LA, or unless you live in a big city where they are performing in, we're just not privy to that information. It's not being advertised to us. So we think that they're only working on film. But Meryl Streep does theater. Denzel Washington and Viola Davis were together in the play Fences. They loved the experience so much that they came out and self-financed the movie Fences that they starred in together because they had such a great experience. So it's these great A-list actors are doing theater all the time. That should say something alone. That's okay. The big actors are doing a film, but they're also still working in theater. That's an indicator to something. It's because in theater is where we get to really grow our art. Film is very technical. So, yes, there are differences as far as technique, but technique is on the top. And what I would liken it to is if you're studying to become a doctor, there are specialties that you may train in. You can train in the head, or you could train in the heart, you could train in feet, right? You can train different specialties of being a doctor. But you still have to have medical training, right? You still have to get your MD. There's still a standard training for all medical doctors, and then you study your specialty. As a lawyer, you want to become a lawyer. There's standard training to become a lawyer. And then you can specialize in constitutional law or criminal law or real estate law, or whatever that is. There's this specialty that goes on top, but there's all of that training underneath. Well, as an actor, it's the same thing. We will put our specialty on top, whether we want to work in film, television, whether we want to do comedy or drama, whether we want to do commercial acting. All of that is the specialty, but there's the core acting that we have to learn underneath. That core acting is what we today consider theater acting. Now, in many places around the world, still, they don't differentiate it. This really is primarily an American thing, but it is something that is starting to spread out, this misconception that there's a difference. And it's like, no, the core training is to train on stage, is to train what acting truly is, to train to stay in a prolonged moment, to put all of your focus outward, to really just exist and to go as deep into a character as you possibly can, right? Learning how to step in and live the lives of these people. That's what we need to do, and then we can bring that to film. And when we do that, we discover that it really is all the same, meaning the approach of characterization, learning how to step into a character is the same thing, theater or film. Most of the rehearsal process as the actor, how we memorize our lines, how we make things personal to us, how we truly step in to a moment, all of that is really the same. Learning how to put our focus outward, doesn't matter what medium that's in. So we learn how to do this. That's the core training. And then we learn the differences on top. Now in theater, they're very similar. They really are very similar. But in theater, we're performing for a live audience. That's the technique. So we have to learn how to present ourselves on stage. We have to learn how to what's called to be in the light, making sure the light is hitting us a certain way, making sure we can be seen. We face outward toward the audience so they can see our faces. And so we invite the audience in. In film, it's not about a live audience, it's about the camera. So we still do the same thing. We still have to be in our light. We still have to open up to the camera and make sure the camera sees us. And we have to learn how to live in a frame, in a composition. So there's similarities, except we're playing to an audience or playing to a camera. That's really the difference. And so we learn those techniques. In film, we need to also learn to stay within our focus. So in film, there's a very short amount of focus that we're in. Usually it's like from the back of your ear to your nose. And if I lean forward, I'm out of focus. If I lean back, I'm out of focus, depending on the lens that's being used. So those are things too. But those are very technical things. They're not difficult to pick up. It just takes a little training to do. But that fits on top of the core training of letting yourself go, getting out of your head, putting all of your focus outward, really understanding the feeling of the relationship that you have with everything around you. And that lesson is learned in theater. So I want to answer one of the questions I have coming up here. It says, would you say it's best to start in theater and then move to film? Or is it okay to pursue both at the onset? You can absolutely pursue both. And what I would say is study a deeper process. So when you have the opportunity, and this is something that is starting to happen all over the world, but it was an American thing, which was to come up with direct-to-film training. And because we're a capitalistic society, there's ways to make money, right? And so there was an opportunity for teachers to say, you know what, I'm just going to do a 6-week course and make it direct to film. And so they started teaching that, and that was some part of the divide. Because really, as I said before, many parts of the world, there is no differentiation of theater versus film. It's just acting training. You learn how to be an actor. It's not about the medium, it's about the core training. It only started happening when people started trying to take a piece of it and then teach just that. So it's like, all right, I'm going to take the technical layer of film and just teach that. So the biggest thing is going to be training. If you're training in a deeper level process at a conservatory or something where you're getting more of a deeper process, if you're training with that, you can then apply it to both, because your training will be in theater. And then you can take that, and I highly recommend working student film. Student film is amazing. And you can find those everywhere. Everywhere there's a university, look to see if they have a film program and see if they're doing student films. Because these are students that are learning how to make film, and they love to work with actors, and it's very low risk. It's nothing that's going to hurt your career. It's nothing that's going to, right? It doesn't matter. You get to just practice your craft. So it's absolutely okay to pursue and work both at the same time. Just make sure your training is focused in a deeper process or in theater. Next question. Do you think if we already have some stage acting experience through school, it'd be wise to then switch over to film, or should we try to go back and forth like you had mentioned big actors do? So even if you have training in school, and it really depends on the school you go to, high school doesn't give you enough training. Most colleges don't give you enough training. You still need to go to conservatory. Now, what I mean by conservatory, if we think about what the London actors do, who get some of the best training, right? London, Australia, all of the British Commonwealth countries, their training is they go through high school, they go through university, then they go from university to conservatory. Conservatory simply means it's a focused area of study in your particular art form. So a focused area of study in music, or a focused area of study in dance, a focused area of study in acting. And you go for another like 3 to 4 years now studying that deeper level process. And then in Europe, for example, you go from conservatory, then what's called into repertory, which is then a group theater, where you're just performing in theater over and over and over and over and over again for a couple years. And so it allows you to apply all of the things that you've learned. When you see an actor come out of Europe or Australia, they've been studying a long time. They've been doing this for a long time. So even though if you have experience in school, still keep studying or applying it in theater as well. Even if your heart is set on film, theater is where you're going to it's going to make you a stronger actor in film. One of the actors that you revere. And, just, again, look to Hollywood. look at the backstory of a lot of the big actors, the ones that are really revered, and you're going to notice that they have a history in theater. I mean, for the most part, there might be a few exceptions, but for the most part, and even when you find someone younger that comes out, like Tom Holland, for example, who, the current Spider-Man, um, he comes out and he's younger, but he was raised in theater. So while he didn't go through the normal tract of training, he was trained because he started very young in European theater, and that's so he did get his training there too. Um, there's a freedom in that. There's a freedom that you gain by learning how to work live on stage. And when I watch actors that go directly to film, there's a stiffness to it. There's a tension to it. We don't understand the freedom that's necessary to really bring a character to life because it's all technical. But then you watch the actors that come from theater and they work on film. They're loose, right? They understand how to still work in the frame, but also bring this freedom and this liberation of character to life. Um, so, okay, good. And it looks like Sam answered the next question. Okay. So I wanted to see if I can show you something here. Let me see if this. So I want to show you I'm going to walk you through a small clip. This is something I filmed in in one of our film classes at the studio. We end up shooting some scenes. And of course, in our studio, we teach a deeper level process. So essentially what we would call a theater process. Nowadays, theater process means deep level. Film means just the technical level. So we learn the foundation of how to do that. And then in this particular semester, we apply it to the camera. So let me see. Excuse me.
The way you will hold onto a straw you could breathe through. Lying at the bottom of deep water. In that water, opaque, you can see through the surface.
So in film, there's different shots. In each shot that you have, right, every single frame that you have is a different camera setup. Right? So we have one frame and it's like, okay, so we set the camera here and we pointed it here and we're only going to record this half a page. And that's all we do. And then we move the camera. And if we move the camera just to something else, right, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is the shot, and this is all we're going to record. And we record 30 seconds of that. And so, as you can see, it's very disjunctive in how that works and how it kind of puts together. So that's important to understand because, again, if we were performing something on stage, everything would happen live at one time. Everything would move through from start to finish. But when we watch something...
He left me tied in the bed. It was a cot with a thin mattress. Very dirty. There were only 2 windows in the cabin. And there were blinds over them drawn tight. The lower parts of me were raw and throwing with pain. and other parts of me were in a haze of pain, so I wasn't able to think.
So as we go through that, there's different shots. Within each shot is a different take as I cut back and forth. But as we put it together, it feels like one thing. So the actor's responsibility is to give me everything they have for the 30 seconds, 45 seconds at a time that I'm shooting just that one shot, because there's different angles, right? Like even right here, we punch in and there's a close-up angle. So I only recorded that maybe for 30 seconds, 45 seconds to just get reactions. Then I piece it all together. So, and underneath it all is the sound.
And I wasn't awake most of the time. Know what you will call actual wakefulness? With a personality? What you call your personality, you know? It's not like actual bones or teeth or something solid. It's more like a flame. A flame can be upright. A flame can flicker in the wind. A flame can be extinguished. So it's like it's never been.
Okay, so we had some great moments of performance. We had some great emotion. We had some great, but the music, right, that sound underneath tied it all together. This is one of the tricks that we do in editing. We use sound to tie everything together to make it feel like you're watching one thing. And while Kimberly here did a great performance, right? She had some really deep emotion in this. We did this take after take after take, and then as the editor, I decided, yes, this is the one I want to use because I love the deeper emotion. Right? When I looked back and I had some reactions of Malik, right? So it's a reaction shot, but he had some great emotion. So I was like, I'm going to put that in there as well. And so we edit it together. We're able to create the performance that we want. An editor has an amazing control over that, which is a good thing. So film, we're just providing the slivers. Now they're able to do that, right? Kimberly and Malik and everyone else involved was able to give these wonderful performances because they understand staying in it. They understand committing to the moment, to allowing themselves to go where they need to go, and then simply just going, regardless of what was really happening, what they think should be happening, right? They get out of their head and just allow themselves to go. And as a director and an editor, I really appreciate that. I appreciate actors who just let themselves go and to trust me as a director to collect what I'm needing. And then my job in the edit is to make the product look as good as it can possibly look. Make the actors look as good as they can possibly look, right? Because if the actors look better, the characters are better, and therefore it's a more effective story to an audience. And so we learn to play with all of those things. But there's like 6 or 7 different shots that were used, meaning the camera has a different setup. We physically move the camera, we move lights, we move everything around. And then on top of that, then we do take after take after take. And then once as a director I get what I want, then that's great. Then we move on, we move the camera again, and we might even redo the same dialogue from a different angle. And then it's like a big puzzle that we puzzle together in the edit. If that was on stage, it's one take. It's live. The audience is watching it unfold right before them. So the actors, if we need that moment to be an emotional hit, they got to do it. Right? They got to get there. There's a pressure to that. If we need a certain feeling out of the actor in another moment, the actor needs to get it there. There's a pressure to that. This is what theater teaches you. And then all of a sudden, you come from theater and you can do all of these amazing things because you're so well trained in how to access every part of yourself and to let go and to simply live in the moment. You're so well trained on that. You come over to film and it's easy by comparison. Because in film, we're just doing small little slivers. And you're used to being on stage for 90 minutes at a time, going to some very deep places. And now they're asking you for 90 seconds. And it's like, oh, yeah, I could do that. The other way doesn't translate. If you're trained only technically in film, then theater is going to be extremely difficult because now you're working technically. You're working with multiple takes. You've been trained with that type of behavior, and now we're saying, oh, you need to be on stage for 90 full minutes at a time, and it's frightening to do that. So the deeper level process gets you there. It's slower. Now, here's the thing about a deeper level process, and in today's age, we come up with some barriers on that. It's slower, meaning it takes more time to develop a deeper process. It takes a few years to develop that. And so when you're looking at something and you're saying, I want to learn acting, but wow, this one is a 3-year program. I don't know if I want to do that. This one says in 6 weeks they could teach me how to be in film. I want to do that. We all want it now. We want the microwave society, right? And even when we microwave something, it's still not going fast enough, right? We want everything now, instant gratification. What I can tell you is in the arts, the long form process is what's going to sustain you for your career, right? Not just hurrying up and getting into the industry. That doesn't really help you. And we simply point to the actors that are successful in the industry. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they've done. And you'll start seeing a pattern of like, oh, okay, this person, yeah, this is a London actor. First of all, if they're a London actor, there's a certain level of training they have. Second of all, even the actors, the American actors, you'll look and it's like, oh, they're a great actor. Let me look them up. Oh, they studied at Juilliard. Juilliard is a conservatory in New York that focuses on music and acting and other things. Even in Juilliard, so Adam Driver, who studied and graduated from Juilliard, he did an interview and was talking about his experience. And he said when he went into Juilliard, he really wanted to be a film actor. That was his goal, was to work in film. And he was shocked when he got into Juilliard that they don't teach film. Like their entire 3-year process is theater. He said there's a semester on film technique, and that's it. And he didn't understand that because he wanted to be in film. And it wasn't until he started going through the process and realized, oh, this is acting. This is what that is. This is acting. And then realized that the film semester, which comes later, is just a thin layer of technique that's applied on top of it. And it was a pretty big revelation for him, and it's a good interview if you can find that. So let's see. Question: are classes pretty flexible for full-time employees? Long-term, how do actors balance their day with auditions and so forth? Yeah, when you're first starting to get into the industry, it is a juggling act because most students, unless you're coming right out of school, unless you're younger and coming right out of school, if you're starting from already having a job, now it's like, well, how do I deal with having a full-time job and also do acting? So classes, many classes are flexible. I mean, what I would say, like at our studio, we offer daytime and evening classes. So it's the ability to, for people that have a job during the day, you could take the evening classes. If you work at night, you can take the daytime classes. It's like that. And so that allows you to just get started. My first big piece of advice, just get started. Just take a class, start working, start learning what it's about. You're going to learn everything that you don't know, basically, is the beginning of the process, right? We start off, we don't know what we don't know, but then we get into a class and it's like, oh, this is everything I have to learn. And so that's a good start. That's a good start to get into it, and then you learn. As far as balancing it, there are ways to do that. Early on, many student films, community theater shows, all of that, the rehearsals are at night or they occur on the weekends. They try to work around the standard weekday, daytime job schedule, which most people might have. Most student films, smaller community theaters, also are very flexible working around your work schedule as well. Most of it's volunteer. So we're looking, hey, you want to get involved as an actor? Sure, we're going to work around whatever you have. So there are ways to get in, to start working, and to just begin learning the process. At some point, if you want to really, really take a run at this, though, uh, what I recommend is you may need to get a more flexible job. If your job is not flexible to allow you to go to auditions, to allow you to work in the industry, then we might need to switch that. And so there's other jobs out there, so you can switch to something that's a little more flexible. The restaurant industry tends to be a little more flexible. We're in Orlando, so we have hospitality is a big deal here that you could always get into. There are some things that you can do. I even recommend to some students replace your full-time job with 2 or 3 part-time jobs. And that way you have flexibility within part-time, much more. And also, if you have to let go of one part-time job, you don't let go of all of your income, right? You don't have all of your income tied to a single job. So that's something to consider as well. But it's absolutely doable. Don't worry about long-term when you're starting out, because the path you're on is going to change. Once you're in and you start learning about acting and learning about all the different avenues and how to get there, once you get all that information, everything looks different. And so that's just get started is what I would say. Do you have to have an agent when you start auditions? Well, the thing about that is it depends. So for student films, community theaters, things like that are on that level, you do not have to have an agent. Agents are going to be for professional level auditions. The issue is that to get an agent for bigger things, they're going to require you have a certain level of training. And so that's something that you'll need to do. So the training will help you then get an agent, which can then help you do commercial acting or help you go for bigger film, television, professional theater, things like that. But there's so much that's available in the what we call the independent market. There's so much available that you do not need an agent for in the beginning. So I wouldn't let if you don't have an agent, I wouldn't let that stop you or hinder you from getting into the industry. We all start in the same place. We all start with nothing on our resume. We all start with no training, right? We start at the same place, but then you start training, and that goes on your resume. And that training will lead to opportunities, student films and some things, and those go on your resume, and your resume starts building. Agents will look at the fact that you are putting something, time and effort into your craft, and then an agent at some point will take a chance on you, and then you can go and start doing bigger and better things. Um, See, I understand these days you do not need to reside in a specific market to act. So my question is, how do you find the right agent to help the talent book jobs? For example, I just learned that a major television show filmed in my hometown, Erie, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a good market. I don't know if they needed extras, etc., and I just feel left out. So uh, this is excuse me. Another thing is once again start getting involved when you get involved in certain classes, when you start training, that can help you open the doors to knowing who the agents are, where the opportunities reside, to get involved in that. You can also look online to see who's doing background work. Every major market has a casting director for background or what we call extra work. And that's a good way to get involved as well. I think, which goes into the next question that's even on the list, I think it's great when you're starting out, especially, to be on set, to do background work, to do extra work, or in the theater community, it's called understudy work, where you're not going to be on stage, but you're still learning it just in case anything has happened with the lead. So, look up, Google wherever you're at. So if it's Erie, Pennsylvania, see if there's background casting or extra casting for Erie, Pennsylvania, or just Pennsylvania like in general, and see who that is. And then typically for background is when you watch. Let's say you're watching a restaurant scene and the two lead actors are they're eating lunch. Well, they're in the foreground, and so the focus is on them. But to make the restaurant feel realistic, we have to fill it with other people eating lunch and the servers and the person running the cash register, things like that. So we fill them with extras, people who just are in the background, but make the environment feel more real, more truthful. And so it doesn't require really any training to do that. And you get to be on set. And the great thing about being on set as an actor, if you want to aspire to be more, is you get to learn. You get to watch what's happening, and you get to watch the leads and just learn the process. Pay attention, and that can lead to other opportunity. So I would do that. But as far as do you have to reside in a specific market? No. If you're in the Northeast, anywhere in the Northeast, you have access to New York under the proper agents. You have access into the New York market. The Southeast, we're in Orlando, but many of our actors reside here in Central Florida and have access into the Atlanta market. In the Southwest, you have access into the LA market. So you really don't have to reside anywhere. And as the more you gain your experience in the industry, you also can now audition all over the place. You can live on the East Coast and audition for the West Coast and vice versa. Technology, modern day technology has given us great advancements in not having to reside in the city that you are auditioning for. And if you think about it, again, I point to London. All of these actors that reside in Europe are working out of LA. And they're not residing in LA yet. They live in London, but they auditioned from London or Europe. And so that's one of those that just shows that you don't have to reside anywhere specific, which is a great thing. What age should you start acting? Well, the great thing about this industry, and I've talked about it, I think in some of my other acting sessions, I've talked about this. There is no age in acting, meaning I know so many people ask me, it's like, oh, I'm in my 20s, is that too late? I'm in my 30s, is that too late? I have students that are in their 70s and 80s. It's never too late to get into acting, and it's always the right time. There's never a wrong time to get into acting. And it's because we need actors of all different types, of all different ages. And so when I say, when is it good to get into acting? Well, when is it right for you? When do you feel motivated? When do you feel drawn into it? For some people, it's when they're young. coming out of high school, coming out of college, like, no, this is what I want to do with my life. Great. And go do that. For other people, it's no, they want to have a career or maybe a family or want to explore, do other things. And then they come back to it in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they say, now's the time I want to get into it. So there's no right or wrong time. It's just, when does it fit properly into your life? When do you feel you have the passion to do it? And when you feel that passion, then absolutely go ahead and do it then. Let's see. A couple others. Let's see if I can. If you have an agent but not getting any auditions, what does that mean? Well, it depends on the agent and the market that you're in. Because there are some agents which are big agents. And by big agents, I mean they carry a big a roster of actors. Sometimes it's even though you just get an agent, if they're not sending you out on the audition, it's just because you haven't moved to the top of their roster yet. Getting in the door is still a big deal, but now what you have to do is show them that you are taking steps on your own to improve. So I would periodically, maybe once a month, maybe twice a month if you have something to say, reach out to your agent. Figure out what their form of communication is. Most agents like email nowadays, but just send an email and say, hi, I just want to let you know what I've been working on. So give them something. Say, hey, I just want to let you know I'm enrolled in this class and it's going really well. I look forward to working with you more. That's it. A very quick thing to say, hey, this is what I'm doing on my end. But you want to stay on top of their mind. You don't want to reach out to your agent and ever say, why aren't you sending me out on anything? That doesn't come across in the best way. But instead, offer something. Hey, I just want you to know I just worked on this student film, last week, and it really went well. Once it's done, I'd love to send you a copy of it. Things like that. So the more you can do on your own, and then show your agent that you are progressing, whether it's taking a class, whether you just read a book on acting, whether you're out there auditioning for student films or community theater projects, whatever it is you can do on your own, show that to your agent. That moves you to the top of their roster. Then they're like, yeah, look at this person. They're a real go-getter. I want to send them out on something. So it's something to try and see if that can work for you. Is it a good idea to look for jobs on places like Backstage and other online platforms? Yeah, you can do that. Backstage is okay. Backstage has a mix, meaning just be careful. Backstage does have opportunity out there, legitimate good opportunity for actors, mostly background, mostly like smaller roles, but still legitimate opportunity. But there's also a lot of what I call junk, spammy type of stuff on Backstage. And you just have to kind of learn how to sort through that. But just be careful. If something sounds too good to be true, it is. So trust your instincts on that. But yes, look online for that. And in any market that you're in, there's also, there tends to be local groups. It's Facebook used to be where we used to go for Facebook groups. They still exist. I know it's a dying platform, but you can still look for that, though, like a Facebook group on castings for Florida, castings for Pennsylvania, castings for Oregon. Wherever you live, you can do that in any market and see if there's any groups, or search Google for it and find those areas. But yeah, no, I wouldn't stay away from Backstage. I think there's a lot of legitimate stuff on there, and but just be careful, like with everything else. Let me see. So it says some film and music colleges like Juilliard require a portfolio in training, but I came from a school in Indonesia. We never do any plays or theater. How can I build a portfolio coming from nowhere? Really, it's just your training. I know they require certain things, especially Juilliard, but really the access to Juilliard can be done with as simple as having a couple of monologues. And you can apply for Juilliard or some of the major conservatories. You don't necessarily need to have a full portfolio. You definitely can, and show them, here's what I've worked in, but they're not going to penalize you from coming from an area that you didn't have that. but you still could put together some monologues, which they're going to ask you as part of the auditioning process for them to perform. And if you can show them that you have a good handle on that, just from training or from understanding what acting is, then that might get you in the door as well. So I wouldn't let that stop you from applying, because where you come from should not be relevant whatsoever in whether you can gain entrance into a school like that. So still apply. Absolutely still apply. But make sure you read, and don't worry about the portfolio. Put together your resume to the best of your ability, but you will need to have monologues. So that's the thing that's going to help you get in there. Uh, so do you think it would be odd if I reached out to Paramount Plus to send my headshot and acting resume? Not at all. Not at all. Uh, all of the major studios have a talent division where you can send things directly. It's either a casting or a talent division. You can absolutely send something to them directly. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, nothing may come of it, but you never know. And so why not do that? Why not reach out to all of the networks, Netflix and Paramount Plus and whatever else that you really like the programming and that you might want to be a part of? Yes, send a headshot, send a resume, let them know you exist. In many markets, you can send them directly to casting directors, even like not with your agent, but just and you're the biggest thing when you send something out to a network or a casting director directly, even a film directly. Don't ask for anything. This is a really important lesson. If you send, like, let's say you reach out to Paramount Plus and say, "Look, I'm an actor. I'm in the area. Can you please give me a job? Can you please give me an opportunity?" Immediately, that's going to be a no. It comes across as a desperate actor. And so, but if you put something together and say, "Hey, I just want to let you know I really like your material. I'm an actor. I've been training for so many years. Here's just for your consideration. Here's my headshot and resume. I would love the opportunity to work together someday." That's it, right? So you're providing them with something. You're letting them know how much you love what they do, and that's it. You're not asking for anything in return. That will get you further. And you never know who's going to be reading it on that particular day, or who gets it, or who all of a sudden looks at your headshot and says, "You know what? I might need this look or this type for a certain part of this thing we have coming up. I'm going to send this over to our main casting service and have them contact you to come in for an audition." You never know. So absolutely do that. Yeah, I think it's great. Um, and then lastly, what are some good places to do auditions? The best place to practice auditions, meaning, first of all, take a class in auditioning, because it is almost, it's a, while auditioning is very similar to what we do in overall acting, it does have some specific criteria that would be great to learn. So what I would say is learn the process of auditioning, but then you can go apply it. You can audition for student films, and there's zero risk involved. And you can just look for the local universities around, the closest universities to you, and see if they're providing any sort of film program. And you can do that. Independent film, which are typically filmmakers that come out of school and now they're doing projects on their own. And those you can find possibly on Backstage, or you can find, possibly online, like in social media groups. I would look there. And then community theater. Community theater are smaller theaters. They're typically in any mid-sized city and up. Maybe even in small towns. I mean, there's local theaters. They're provided by volunteers. So the people that work there are volunteer. The actors that work there are volunteers. And you can go and audition there. These are low-risk places to audition that you can then become comfortable and build your skills doing that. And then once you get to a certain point, you can get an agent, and the agent will send you on more professional auditions with professional casting directors. And then they'll tell you exactly where to go and what needs to happen. So this was, I loved all of the questions today. I loved the interaction. Thank you so much for providing all of that. Um, I love that you're also passionate about acting and the industry, and it was great to have this time discussing it with you. I just want to come back and just say one more time that don't be afraid. If you want to be a film actor or television actor, don't be afraid of theater. And you don't have to, it doesn't, going into theater doesn't mean you have to perform in London or Broadway or anywhere else. You don't ever have to go that route. It's just the training of being live in front of an audience. Because in film, we are still live in front of the crew. There's still that anxiety that we have, that pressure that we have. And we learn that in a deeper level process. So to be the best film actor you could possibly be, we need to learn it standing on a stage in front of an audience. So hopefully you can get that at least in a class environment. I, Man, time flies. So we're at the end of this session. Thank you all for being here with us today. If you have any other questions, you can email us at info@truthfulacting.com. It's myself and Samantha. You will be the ones who are responding back to you. But please, if you have any further questions, email us, ask us, and we'll get back to you. You can also call or text us at the number below. And again, that goes right to Samantha as well. And we'll be happy to answer any further questions you have on the industry, on anything that any other questions, or even our conservatory that we have. So, well, I'll be back in a few weeks with the next topic. Just stay tuned to our website. I'll be posting the next topic there soon, and I'll see you all then. So, thanks, everybody.